Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Room. So today we're doing the Magic the Gathering top 10 oaths. So it should be really interesting to see where it goes. And let's start with number 10. And at number 10 we got Oath of the Ancient Wood from Magic 2014. It's a rare going for roughly 19 cents on the market. Not very impressive. But for 2 colors in a forest, it says whenever another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, you may put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. So this is basically at number 10 because what are the chances of building an enchantment deck? Could be, but I find that not very impressive because that's a very specific card for a very specific ability. For only +1/+1, you might as well play some other stuff. So if that's it, let's move on to number 9. Which we have at number 9 is Oath of TEFERI from the Dominaria series. It's a rare going for only $1.37. There is a lot of saying for this card. For 3 colors, a white and an island, this legendary enchantment says exile another target permanent you control, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of its next unstep. You may activate the loyal abilities of the planeswalkers you control twice each turn rather than only once. So the reason why is because that last saying, activating twice each turn, this is why it's at number 9. Of course, again, it's a lot more before this, but it's up here. For 5 mana, I still feel that's pretty expensive to just do this. So let's just move on to number 8. So at number 8, we got Oath of Scholars from Exodus. It's a rare going for only 34 cents at the time of this video. Well, the picture's kind of cool. I like that. But it says, during each player's upkeep, if that player has fewer cards in the hand than the target opponent, that might player discard a card, his or her hand, and draw 3 cards. So this could backfire or not backfire depending on how you want to play the deck. This is the reason why it's at number 8. So again, it's really expensive just for this ability depending on how you want to play. So that's just why it's at number 8. So let's move on to number 7. So at number 7 we got Oath of CHANDRA from the Oath of Gatewatch series, which is a rare going for 27 cents. So a lot of these Oath cards are not worth a lot of value in the whole Magic world, and their abilities aren't that great, but for the Oath top 10, these are really good. For 2 colors, it starts off by doing 3 damage to any target creature an opponent controls. So for 2 mana for 3 damage, it's not too great, but it has that good ability. But the second one part says, at the beginning of each end step, if a planeswalker enters the battlefield under your control this turn, it deals 2 damage to each opponent. Again, not super powerful. You can either just have a shock instead of playing on another planeswalker. This is why this card in general is not that great. I don't even know why it's a rare, but it's an oath. So let's move on to number 6. So at number 6, we got Oath of AJANI from Aether Revolt. It's a rare going for 67 cents. I thought this card was actually really cool and somewhat impressive. For only 2 mana, basically it says, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Planeswalker spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, which is really good, especially if you want to have a planeswalker that costs 4. You can get out that 3rd turn, which with many combinations of planeswalkers can be quite deadly to the opponent. And the saying is kind of cool. It says, until all have found their place, I will keep watch. So there's the oath. For 2 mana, this, I don't know why it's either legendary, because it's not continuous. You're just putting a +1/+1 counter, and that's it. But let's move on to number 5. So halfway down our list, which I'm going to say her name is Oath of LILIANA. I always say her name wrong, but that's the way I'm going to say it. Which is from the series Eldritch Moon, rare going for 49 cents. So this one is basically going back to the Chandra enchantment. So when it enters the battlefield, each opponent sacrifices a creature. For 3 mana, I don't know. But it says, at the beginning of each end step, if a planeswalker entered the battlefield under your control this turn, put a 2/2 black zombie token onto the battlefield. The reason why it's at number 5, putting zombies into play can have an effect on all your deck based on what you want to do, because zombies have so much, I guess, aspects to the world of Magic. You may in fact make a zombie deck with whatever enchantments to bring them out and pump them up. This is the reason why it's at number 5. So let's move on to number 4. At number 4, we got Oath of the Mages from Exodus. It's a rare, only going for about 32 cents on the market at the time of this video. So it costs 1 colorless and a mountain. But it says, during each player's upkeep, if that player has less life than target opponent, he or she have Oath of Mages deal 1 damage to that opponent. This card is not great, but it's at number 4 because this is more of an annoyance. They can get 1 damage every turn while this enchantment's in play. Again, that is just a pure annoyance factor, and that's why I like it. So let's move on to number 3. At number 3, we got Blood Oath from Mercurian Masks. It's a rare going for roughly 31 cents. Another 30-cent rare. Well, it costs 4 mana basically, but it says choose a card type. The target opponent reveals his or her hand. Deals 3 damage to that player for each card of those type card revealed this way. So it could be artifact, creature, enchantment. With the many combinations with this card, can be very, very helpful. Again, by turn 4 might have an opponent have no cards in their hand. So it depends on what they play and how you play this card. With so many combinations out there, that's why it's at number 3, because it can actually be quite powerful if you need to be. So let's move on to number 2. Which we have Oath of Ghouls from Stronghold. It's rare, part of the reserve list, and it's going for $23.86 on the current market value. So Exodus really went with the oath, so this one is actually the black, called Oath of Ghouls. It says, during each player's upkeep, if that are more creature cards in that player's graveyard than in target opponent's graveyard, that player may return a creature card from his or her graveyard to his or her hand. So it got a bit of a cycling ability with the graveyard if you can access it, which is really cool. Again, what I said in the previous card, there's a lot of combinations that you can use for this card. So again, we're talking about oaths, and on top of that, it's by Braum. Really good illustrator for Magic, and look at that picture. It's just amazing all around. So let's move on to number 1. So you guys may or may not agree with me, but Oath of Kaya from War of the Spark is a rare from 46 cents only. I know it's not very expensive, but I like this card. This is why it's at number 1, because, well, basically for a white-black combo, does 3 damage to any target, and you gain 3 life against with the white and swamp in the card to cast it. Then whenever opponent attacks a planeswalker you control, basically it deals 2 damage to that player, and you gain 2 life. So I think this card is very, very underrated. It was very used a lot when it was the current standard at the time. So that's it. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day and a wonderful evening.